your swagger. Keep your swagger.
Hey, welcome into the 5-Hole Fantasy Hockey Podcast. I'm your host, Alan, here with another entry in the Vibe Check series. Here with me today is Jon Chik of the Locked On New York Rangers. Yes, you gotta be specific like the Kings, or else you'll get a completely different team. Here with a Vibe Check on the season so far, what we might see down the stretch. Like we touched on right before the show, not the best season to be a Rangers fan, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's been rough, and it's kind of a weird situation here where we've had this Olympic break, and I was talking about on social media and, on my most recent episode or two that it really is going to be jarring, going from watching these, greatest players on the planet battling in these high-stakes Olympic games, not the least of which was obviously the gold medal game and just the pace of that game being off the charts, and you go from that to basically the polar opposite of that, which is going to be the New York Rangers back in action a little bit later this week, but we'll make the best of it. We're Ranger fans, and we're in this for life.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe not real playoffs, but in fantasy playoffs, I mean, the Rangers do have one of the best schedules if your playoffs are weeks 21 to 23. But yeah, some of the most potential action in the next couple weeks with the trade deadline approaching. So first off, John, I mean, I saw in your credits you wrote for Roto World, for NBC Sports. Like, how'd you end up getting involved with Locked On?
Yeah, it's just kind of right place, right time, if I'm being completely honest. When it comes to football, I happen to be a big fan of the 49ers. And, I live in Connecticut. There's not really any coverage of the 49ers around here. Not really. I mean, it's kind of hard to know where to go. And, Jesus, I guess this is like 7 or 8 years ago at this point. But just wanted to find, somebody that had the pulse of the 49ers and like training camp battles and whatnot, would do some deep dives on the team. And you get the website for that. But I wanted to look at podcasts, and I just stumbled across Locked On 49ers, and, I liked it. Shout out to them. They do a great job there. But then I also realized, I was like, do these guys post a new episode every day? And I realized they did. But then I also saw that Locked On had not yet expanded into hockey. And so once they did that, I was all over it, wanted to get a tryout. And fortunately, I mean, the tryout episode, I guess, went well enough that they like what they heard. And I've been here ever since, 7 seasons.
Oh, wow.
And I wouldn't change a thing, man. It's been a blast talking Ranger hockey.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible. I didn't realize that Locked On for hockey was that new. But yeah, man, moving right into it. So obviously Panarin got scratched leading up to the Olympic break and before his trade and everything. So we got kind of a preview with some of how that would affect some of the lines. We saw Laugh slide up to power play 1, Cooley up to Trocheck's wing on line 2, which was Panarin's spot. Do we see that as kind of the ceiling for the two of them? Like, do we think maybe there's a way that Laugh gets line 1 or Cooley somehow finds himself on power play 1?
I mean, Lafreniere, I think for sure will be in the top 6 the rest of the way. And that's not because he's played great. That's just kind of by default. I mean, there's really nobody else to put there, especially now that Panarin is out of the picture and, you got to fill out the lineup somehow. And as far as power play 1, he's kind of been off and on, that unit throughout the entire season. But I think with Panarin gone, and Trocheck could be gone too, I mean, that could really go either way. And that's really a polarizing debate for Ranger fans, but you'd be down another guy, from your top power play unit if they were to trade Vincent Trocheck. So I think Lafreniere is going to be there. And as for Cooley, I mean, it's interesting with him because I think that, over the last couple of years before this one, he really kind of established himself as like a premier standout third line player. And I think a lot of us, myself included, I think Mike Sullivan as well, we were all kind of hoping that he would take that next step and really kind of establish himself as like a bona fide top 6 power forward. And I mean, there's been flashes of that, but he's been all right this season. I mean, Will Cooley is the least of the Rangers' problems, but he also hasn't taken, that giant leap forward that I think a lot of us were hoping for in the top 6. So he's in an interesting spot. I mean, again, if there's a spot open, he might end up on the top power play. I think for sure he'll be in the top 6 the rest of the way, but he'll have a prominent role for this team, no doubt. And
sure,
if you need hits in your league, I mean, you should be all over that because he's, once again, toward the top of the league in that category.
Oh yeah, for sure. I definitely one of the guys we always recommend to pick up, especially like you said, if it hits or what you need. So yeah, I'll skip ahead to another question here. So who else? I mean, you said Trocheck, maybe. Like, who else do you think we see moves? Like, we've even seen Gavrikov's name kind of start to surface within the last week or two.
Yeah, the Gavrikov thing is interesting. I haven't really talked about it that much on my show yet. I'm trying to wait to see if there's a little bit more smoke to the fire, so to speak, whatever that expression is. But, Mike Rupp just kind of threw out the idea, and Rupp's awesome, don't get me wrong, but he just kind of threw out the idea that Gavrikov just signed on long-term as a free agent with this Ranger team, and all of a sudden, Gavrikov's buddy Panarin is getting traded, and things aren't looking so good, and they're going to be sellers at the trade deadline. And Rupp basically just kind of wondered out loud, Gavrikov might be wondering at this point, is this like what I signed up for and would I want to go somewhere else? I haven't really seen a whole lot more to it than that. So I get the feeling Gavrikov is going to be around. I mean, I guess never say never, but I would imagine here, moving forward, we'll see. And then I think Braden Schneider is somebody else to keep an eye on as well. He's a solid defenseman, but I don't think he's somebody that is really ever going to be all that better than he is right now. I don't think he has an astronomically high ceiling. And he's had a little bit of a chance with Fox being injured to play on the top pairing with Gavrikov, and the results haven't been great. So he's one of those guys where I think it depends on the return. He's young enough that you could keep him through this rebuild and re-sign him and all that good stuff. But if a team comes along and wants to give you a first rounder for Schneider, which I think is very possible, then I think that the Rangers might look to jump on that. And I wouldn't fault them, if they were to do that.
Yeah, sure. And then actually, I'm taking these questions out of order. So there we go. Like you said, first rounder. So has the front office kind of said what they're focusing on to try to get in return for some of these guys, picks, prospects, NHL ready players?
Yeah, I mean, they haven't really been too blunt about it, but I mean, we saw the letter 2.0 that went out a couple of weeks back. That's what we're calling it. And, it's not a rebuild, it's a retool and, all this other, GM speak that was in there. I do think you might see them lean a little bit more toward wanting prospects, maybe guys that have either just debuted in the NHL or are getting ready to do that, maybe a little bit later this season. Or, in the case of somebody like Liam Greentree, a prospect who's, a little bit older, a former first round pick, but I believe he's 20. Not that that's old by any stretch, but, he'll be ready. He'll be ready for the NHL, right. Sooner than if you were to get a second round pick or a first round draft pick in a trade, because then you got to draft them, junior hockey or college hockey, whatever it might be. And they're a couple steps away from the NHL. I think they're going to favor guys that are, a little bit closer to making that leap to the NHL.
Sure. And then probably not a super fantasy relevant player this season, at least, but Gabe Perreault seems like he's established himself as a permanent fixture on that top line. I mean, he's only got 8 points in 24 games, maybe not super fantasy relevant, but I do remember a stat from toward the beginning of the season where he first got called up, played a few games, got sent back down. And then after a few games after that, there was someone on Twitter that was like, hey, the Rangers are kind of much better with Perreault in the lineup. Do we think that he maybe he's a lock for the lineup, for the rest of the season, maybe into next season, still sees that top line role?
Yeah, I think for sure you're going to see him in the lineup the rest of the season. I mean, I can't even imagine what the Rangers would look like, sending him down at this point. Because again, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where it's how do you even fill out this roster, right? He should be there. I think he will be there. And recently he's been playing on a line with JT Miller and Mika Zibanejad. Now, JT not having his best season, Mika a little bit of a bounce back season, based on what we saw from him last year. So he's going to have a prominent role. He's going to have a lot of time at the ice. And he's another one of those guys that I think, depending on what they do at the trade deadline, Panarin's already gone. He might take Panarin's spot on the top power play unit. That's entirely possible. And again, if Trocheck gets moved, then another spot in the top power play unit opens up. So if you're in a deeper league, and you're looking for somebody with a little bit of sneaky upside the rest of the way, maybe you got a big bench too. That always helps. I think maybe Perreault is worth looking at for a speculative ad. I'm not promising anything because he's only got 8 points in 24 games, but he is somebody who is getting better. He's flashed some chemistry with Miller and Mika Zibanejad, and I do think you're looking at a situation where he'll have a bigger role, as this season progresses here, as we get down the home stretch.
Sure. And then we've hit on some of the guys who might be moving out. Who do we think are kind of the new core, the untouchables? Probably I assume Fox, Shesterkin, Miller. Miller's probably just albatross contract at this point. But I mean, those three guys. Anyone else you see? I mean, it sounds like Mika may not move. That he may stay. Or
well, I was kind of joking on my show that the letter 2.0 goes out, and Drury mentions that we want to build around our core. And I'm thinking, like, what core exactly are we talking about? Are we just talking about all the guys that have no move clauses that they can't trade, right? And that would be Mika Zibanejad. That would be JT Miller. That would be Adam Fox. That would be Igor Shesterkin. Now, Fox and Shesterkin 100% could, should, and will be here moving forward. Mika is one of those guys, like, if he didn't have the full no move clause, I get the feeling that Drury would have tried to make a move to move him out of town by this point. But he does have the full no move clause. He's got every right to use it. And anytime, he hasn't been asked about it that often, but he's made no bones about it. It sounds to me like this guy has zero intention of waiving that. You never know. Things could change. You get a little bit older. Maybe you want to do some cup chasing. But, he's in New York and he's got his family here, and he seems very happy to, play out his career as a New York Ranger. And JT Miller, I mean, he's got the full no move as well. And I mean, I don't know. With JT, I'm at the point where I kind of hope that he is hurt this year. Not that I would ever wish injury on somebody, but that would at least explain why the numbers are down, why he looks a little bit slower out there than we've seen in the past. So, but yeah, I mean, I think you nailed it, Alan. I think those are like the four guys that they're talking about as far as like the veteran core pieces of this team.
Sure. And then there we go. That kind of, transitions perfectly to another question I had. So, I mean, I think it was Elliot Friedman kind of threw out there that there's probably some guys that are hanging on by a thread just to play the Olympics, and then they probably get shut down for the season. Do we think that JT Miller might be one of those guys?
It's possible, but I've also seen this Ranger team basically refuse to sit down people that are injured. When Barclay Goodrow got hurt a couple of years ago, he couldn't eat solid foods for a couple of weeks, and yet there he is, every single game out there, and he was really struggling and like catching some flack from Ranger fans. And it's like, dude, this guy like shouldn't even be out there. And then last season, something very similar. Ryan Lindgren got into a fight in the preseason, got injured. I don't remember if it was like his jaw or whatever it was, but he had to wear, the fishbowl for the first bunch of games for the start of the regular season. And he wasn't right either. And it's just like, dude, like maybe just let these guys get healthy. And, it's admirable that they want to go out there and gut it out, and, props to them for doing that. But I just don't really see the benefit when they're very clearly compromised. And with JT Miller, it might be the same thing. And, JT Miller, he can be a little bit hard-headed himself. So I get the feeling that no matter how bad things look, no matter how many games this team loses, he's going to want to still keep going out there, especially that it's his first year as captain. He wants to lead the way for this team and gut it out and show some toughness. But I mean, at a certain point, you got to save these guys from themselves,
Oh yeah. It's insane what some of these guys like play through, especially come playoffs, and you guys don't even have that like on the line. No. So I'm wondering if this is a team where maybe we see some of those guys just bench the rest of the season. So yeah, at a certain point in the lineup, you can't just keep moving guys up. Like, well, I have Rempe as an example, but he's out with that thumb injury. Like he should never be top line. Like, who are some of the high end prospects do you think that maybe we see get called up to get a shot in the top six or otherwise?
Yeah, the problem with this Ranger team is like, they don't really have a ton of prospects. I mean, I think far and away their top prospect is somebody we already talked about, and that was Gabe Perreault. Brant Offman, he certainly would have been considered one of their bigger prospects a couple of years ago, but this guy between last season and this season has done nothing. He's got like 3 points in like 40 games or whatever it is at this point, and it hasn't really looked good. And on top of that, Sullivan seems to scratch him every other game, so that's pretty much out. They just called Brett Berard back up, but again, I mean, we're talking about somebody with 0 points in 13 games this season after showing a little bit of promise last season. I mean, you would have to be in like a super, super deep fantasy league to honestly even consider any of these players. I mean, often will at least get you some hits if you want to spam hits at the end of the week, or, you're in a situation like that. Brendan Brisson just got called up, but he's not really much of a prospect, former first round pick by the Knights, but he's shown very little. I mean, honestly, there's really nobody there as far as like guys that could get called up and really make a difference. Scott Morrow, I was hoping they would put him on the top power play. He's an offensive defenseman, but
yeah.
But they didn't do that, and now Adam Fox is coming back, so I think that window's closed too. As far as the prospects, I'm sorry, man. I've got really nothing.
Yeah, no. As you said, Scott Morrow. Funny, that was a really strange choice to like. I think they gave him like a blink, like a shot on power play one right when Fox went down. But yeah, right. it's been Gavrikov there. That doesn't make sense to me. And then, well, they also try 5 forwards as well. Yeah, what is that just a Sullivan decision? Did you get any insight into that, or?
He just seems like he very much favors the veterans, and that was very apparent when, like, I mean, Connor Sherry's going to be coming back, and my God, if they put him on that top power play, that Alan, that might be the final straw for both of us. We might both be about done, when that
I
happens.
saw him his tenure in Tampa, and it was just like I was like, oh, okay, cool, like a serviceable second line guy for that. This will be great because I remembered his time in Buffalo, Washington. Yeah, he was like he couldn't even crack the Lightning roster, and then it was just like, yeah, I don't know what they think they're gonna get out of Sherry when he comes back on the Rangers.
Yeah.
But yeah, he'll be a player.
It'll exist, yeah.
Yeah, and then Fox coming back, Shesterkin, I think. I hope he's coming back, but yeah, he was off to another great start on paper, at least. If when he comes back, do we think that he's just going to get the bulk of the starts down the stretch, just for his own like competitiveness or whatever, or maybe to hit bonuses, or do we think we see like maybe a random prospect get called up out of nowhere, like we see another Brandon Bussey in the Rangers system somehow, or we just maybe Jonathan Quick gets more starts?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think when Igor comes back, you will see him get the lion's share. And it does sound like Colin Stevenson, great beat reporter for the Rangers on my show the other day. And Igor is back at practice. So I wouldn't be shocked to see him out there in that first game back against the Flyers. And, we'll see. It's tough to kind of analyze Igor because I do think, obviously he's a very special goalie, but he's also got, very little help right now. It doesn't feel like the Rangers are going to win a lot of games down the stretch. So, I mean, look, if Igor's back and you've got him on your fantasy lineup, you put him in. There's not a whole lot to think about there. But in terms of like the workload, Quick will get some games here and there. It's possible even he gets traded. We'll see. There's also Dylan Garand from the AHL. He's been called up a couple times, but has yet to actually appear in an NHL game. So, if you're in a league where you go right into the last couple of games of the season, maybe have some kind of a backup plan for Igor, because I wouldn't be shocked if Garand were to finally make his NHL debut one of those last couple of games there. But yeah, I mean, Igor's Igor. If you've got him on your team, plug him back in whenever he comes back.
100%. So, I mean, that was all the questions I had. So, yeah, so I guess to wrap it up, like where can anything you want to plug and where can people find you?
I mean, yeah, if you guys, first of all, Alan, you do an awesome job with this show, and thanks for having me. Really appreciate that. As far as if you want to check out more about the Rangers, we've got Locked On New York Rangers. Anywhere you're listening to this or watching this, Locked On Rangers is there as well. YouTube, every streaming platform, the whole 9 yards. And Alan, seriously, thanks for having me, man. This is a blast.
Yeah, no, again, thank you so much for your time. Yeah, we'll go ahead, cue that outro music. Thanks everyone for consuming this. Hope maybe I might get one more of these in before game start or right as game start, but definitely a team I wanted to get on the radar here. Thanks everyone for listening, and take care of yourselves and each other.